Hello, vinyl community. It's Brian, sometimes known as the High Priest of Threads and Competitions, thanks to Ben Rankins. So now I have no choice. Every time I see a thread or a contest, as we call them here, I am going to contribute a video. So, Ben, I hope you know what you've gotten yourself into. So here we go. This one is for a thread response to MGK Boston, who is Mike, a Canadian living in Boston, who has a thread called By the Numbers. So it's to show albums or bands that have numbers in the title, and it's 12 records. And I thought, well, why 12? Because I normally don't go past 10, because then I have to put them all back, take them out and put them back, and it seems like a lot of work. But for Mike, I will do this. So I'm going to split them as 6 and 6. 6 albums from bands that have numbers in their name, and then 6 records that have numbers in the title. And I'll hopefully try to do this without making any mistakes. And so the first one I'll start with is a band from Belgium called Front 242. This is their third record from 1987 called Official Version. They're a industrial, I think some people call them EBM, electronic body music. Fantastic. Real lot of energy. I think they're touring right now. I think they've been touring a lot. Some of the records are hard to find, especially as they go into the 80s. I have some 12-inch singles and some other LPs from them, but they are a bit difficult to find. But I'm a fan. Good band. That's number one. Number two is a band I think everyone would know. And that is Nine Inch Nails, and this is something called With Teeth, which originally came out in 2005, and this is the so-called definitive edition from 2019. And it's actually a good package because it has a booklet that talks about the ultimate resurrection. So there's a number of pages in here that goes through how they reconstructed this. And on the hype sticker itself, it does talk about the fact that they meticulously prepared this 180 gram vinyl with lots of details attended to that you may never notice, but we care about. And I don't have the 2005 edition, so I don't know if I've noticed anything different. I don't even have the CD, so I don't know about the details. There's also a second insert, just like a fun sort of thing. And it's housed in polyline sleeves, so that's a good record. Third one is a record from 1969. I have a Canadian pressing of this record that probably came out in the 70s. There's no date associated with it, but this is MC5. And this is their record called Kick Out the Jams from 1969. There they are, all looking fantastic. Now, unfortunately, this is the slightly edited version or the censored version, so there's a little, maybe just a second of the track that has been excluded because of profanity. And if you know the record, you know what I'm talking about, but it's fine. Anyway, MC5 probably should have been more famous than they were. A very high energy record. Next is a record from a band called Sector 27. You'll see Tom Robinson's name is on the top because this came out after the Tom Robinson band disbanded. He prepared one record with this band and only one record. I think it was popular overseas, but in Canada I don't think it had a lot of traction. It's a pretty good new wave record. There were singles. It got some airplay. I don't know. I don't ever see anyone talking about this, so I don't know how well known it is or how popular it is. And then after this, Tom went on an extended solo career. So, this is pretty good. I've listened to it not a lot of times, but I like Tom's voice, and so that's something. But it's maybe a little unknown, perhaps. And next, for some Canadian content, I've chosen an indie alternative kind of band from started in the 80s. This is 13 Engines, Byram Lake Blues. I saw this band in concert once, many years ago. So they're, I guess you'd call them a rock indie kind of band. Not much to say about this. Again, not much to find out about this band. If you search for them on the internet, you just find not a whole lot of information. But this is a pretty good record. And it does remind me that I saw them in concert all those years ago. So, pretty good record. And the last record in the numbers category, I should have taken this one out, is by a band called Funboy 3, which was formed by Terry Hall. So if you know Terry Hall, he formed the Specials and also a band called The Color Field. This is their second record from 1983. The track you might know here is Our Lips Are Sealed, which Terry co-wrote with Jane Wideland of the Go-Go's, and the Go-Go's released it first. Their version is on here. It's actually pretty good. I actually enjoy this one equal to the Go-Go's version. And of course, Funboy 3 is famous also for really discovering Bananarama. That group appeared on the first Funboy 3 record. I think they sang backing vocals on at least one track. So this is a pretty fun record. I think there's something special inside. That's that one. And then I'll move on to 6 records that have a number in the title. And I'll start with a classic hip-hop record from 1988 called It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy. And this is a Canadian pressing. I do have an American as well. There's no difference except the American version is in slightly worse shape than this one. This is actually in really good shape. Bring the Noises on here. Of course, that's a track you may know. So I think I read somewhere that this band modeled the social commentary on the thing that Marvin Gaye had been doing with What's Going On. So that's kind of interesting to think about. So yeah, it's a pretty good record. This was the band's second record. Next is live 1969 Velvet Underground live with Lou Reed. Now, interestingly, they added the name Lou Reed here because by the time this was released in 1974, Lou had already started a solo career. So I think he had name recognition. So for those who didn't know that Lou was from the Velvet Underground, they added that line. This is a double live record with not fantastic sound. I mean, it's okay, I guess, for the time. It wasn't professionally recorded, I guess. But, you know, there's some issues with the recording, but it's certainly listenable and it's quite fun. This is the first U.S. pressing from 1974, which somehow I managed to get up here, but it's good. I have a pretty good Velvet Underground collection. I don't think I'm missing much, but I always try to find them if I can. Next we'll go to Krautrock, and this is a band called Neu, and this is Neu 2, the second record. 1973, this is the 2010 reissue. So my two favorite German bands are probably Neu and Kraftwerk. And this one, the 2010 reissue, as I mentioned, has been pressed on white vinyl, which, you know, as I say, I don't mind colored vinyl. So it's fine. It sounds good. And that's a really great band. And then, what are we down to? We have three left. So the next one is the last studio record from The Cure called 413 Dream. I have read that they're working on at least one new record, possibly 2, maybe 3, who knows. This is a double vinyl record that came out in 2008. And I think every Cure record except the self-titled Cure one, which I think is 2004, and Blood Flowers. I can't remember the date on that, which came out as a picture disc and an RSD recently, which I didn't buy because I don't like picture discs. But I think I have everything else. This is a pretty good record. Didn't probably get it wasn't stellar reviews as I recall, but I think it's enjoyable. I think the band is still vital, and they make some good records. And last, just for kind of almost as, oh no, not last, 2 more. This is a weird record because it represents part of a song. So this is the Flaming Lips 7 Skies H3. This is the RSD release from 2014, which was released in an edition of 7,500 copies. This is extracted from a song that they made that is 24 hours long. And they recorded that song in parts. So they record like maybe a few, maybe like a few minutes here, a few hours there. 7 hours, I think, was the longest segment. 25 minutes to 7 hours, and they put it together, and the original edition was in an edition of 13, the entire 24-hour song that was sold to people on a USB disc, but the USB key, was put inside of a real human skull that they had to source and apparently had to pay a lot of money for and sold those. I've never seen one, even photographs of one. I haven't really looked, but that is kind of fascinating. So they distilled it down to 50. By the way, I think they paid $5,000 for each skull. So I can imagine if you bought that, you'd have to cover the cost of this skull. This was released, as I say, in RSD, and it's on what they call clear vinyl, which I think is actually a little cloudy to me. But The Chosen Priests and the Apostles of Infinite Space is printed there. I've listened to this a few times. I haven't listened to it in probably quite a couple of years anyway. But that's kind of interesting, and I'm a big fan of the Flaming Lips. Last one's actually just kind of a fun record because I'm not really a fan of this guy. I like some tracks, but hard to turn this down. It's 50 Million Elvis Fans, Can't Be Wrong. Elvis's Gold Records, Volume 2. This was 1959, but this is my pressing from 1978, which is still has a shrink wrap on it. I think this is electronically reprocessed stereo, I believe. Again, I'm not a big fan. I don't mind his music, and I certainly wouldn't turn the radio station. But I don't have that many of his. But I think this is kind of... I've always thought this was a funny cover and a funny title. So I included that just for fun. So that's it. That's 12. And so if you don't know Mike's channel, you should check it out. He's started a couple threads recently, which I think are interesting. And it's hard not to go there because he's a fellow Canadian. We have a lot of musical reference points. And when he mentions bars he used to go to back in the day or bands he knows. So it's kind of a fun channel to watch for me. Thanks for watching.